So if you want your man to change, and women are much more emotional and vulnerable, it's just the way we're wired, right?
Yeah.
If you're asking your man to do something, I want you to do these things, but every day you're nagging at him, why are you not doing it? What you need to create is a space where you've said it. Now I will support you to help make those changes.
Yeah.
Meaning you're going to encourage them and you're going to say, well done, I really appreciate that what you did there. He can't show you love if he doesn't feel safe in your space, right?
Sure.
He has to have the desire to want to do it. But if he can see, she said it to me once and now she's going to support me as I make these changes, he will make those changes.
I'm in conversation with the lovely Naroop Jhooti, and we're going to be talking about Dad's project, men's mental health, and of course his own journey as he transitioned from being in the family to being dad. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. It's such a lovely environment, lovely setting, so I'm really pleased to be here.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I feel like there's so many areas that I want to go into, but I'm going to pick off in a conversation that we were just having earlier around adjusting from being with yourself to then finding co-parenting and, you know, bringing in a new partner into life. How has that transition been?
I think as you move through certain chapters, as a man especially, I think, speaking as a man, each chapter of your life reflects new challenges and new opportunities for you. And I think it's the willingness to be able to see what they are. And coming out of a 26-year relationship, I came into a world that was unrecognizable. I came from a place where I'd had a partner since I was 15.
Wow.
So I didn't
Teenage love.
Yeah, I didn't even know what it was meant to be single, right?
Yeah.
And all my life I spent with this woman. And so she was my partner for everything. Every experience was with her. Everything I've done, all those birthdays, all those Christmases, you know, graduated from university, got married, did trips abroad, had a child. And then for that to suddenly go was a huge shock for me, because aside from the pain of the separation, of knowing that life is no more, is trying to figure out, how do I now walk through this new life that's come in front of me? How do I navigate this? I felt totally lost. The best way for me to explain it is, when I was in my marriage, I had everything mapped out. I had our retirement strategy. I used to say, look, we put this much into our stocks and shares ISA every year. We're going to get this by the time we're 65. I had my businesses, our daughter, everything was clear. It's, for me, is like great, foolproof.
Had all the foundations in place.
Had everything done. And then all of a sudden, it went. And all I can explain, it felt like, was just fog. Everywhere fog.
And was that more on your side or was it her side? You don't have to say, of course.
Well, in terms of the fog, and it was me. It was all me, because communication was kept to a minimum initially at that time because of the circumstances of our separation, and I had to figure it out. And all I can remember is, like, if you imagine you're in the middle of a sandstorm and everywhere you look is just dust, and you don't know, okay, where do I take my first step?
Yeah.
I don't know which way to go. Somebody help me. And then obviously people are offering you advice. And the advice they offer you, sometimes this is quite surface level. You'll be all right. You know, everything happens for a reason. You know, take it day by day. You know, spend time on yourself, work on yourself. What does any of that even mean?
All heard those comments.
What does it mean?
Yeah.
It means nothing to someone who is hurting, who's in pain, because it's like you're hearing it, but you're not listening to it. You can't understand it. You can't process it. And I realized that I needed support of family and friends, yes. Right? I didn't want to do anything stupid to myself. I didn't want to make any mistakes. I didn't want to do anything that I would later on regret in my future. And they were there to make sure I didn't do that. But the work had to be done myself. And I always like to say, it's like my family and friends lifted me off the ground, stood me on my feet, but I had to take that first step. And the only way I was able to do that was to try to discover myself and understand for myself, dig deep myself, do the research, look for help, watch videos, read books, you know, go on walks, go to the gym, all these things, find yourself and believe that one day something will happen that will make that fog clear just a little bit less. And now you see a little bit more in front of you. And you're, okay, I might take one step here, this way now. So you take one step there.
Yeah.
And then before you know it, you're walking, then you're running, and then the fog clears. And then here's this new life.
Yeah. I just remember it being a blur.
Yeah.
And just you sat there crying and you're going, why have I put myself in this pain? And I don't know if that was the same for you or as a man's experience where you question and going, how have I got here? You know?
Yeah. I think, as a husband and a father, you want to provide for your family, right? I don't think there's anything wrong saying that there are still those traditions where a man wants to protect and provide and be that figure. If something happens, you want to stand in front of your partner and your child, your children, protect them. If they need something, you want to give it to them. I think they're great, admirable qualities. When everything fails, you can't help but feel it's your fault. What did I do that has led to this?
Yeah.
How could I have not made this happen? But we can't live like that.
No. And it happens on both sides, because I remember I felt like that I feel like a complete failure. Like I failed at something, yet there was no exam. But there was life that had happened. And all I know is that during the time of that life, you're kind of going, I'm not enjoying it. Something needs to change. Didn't know how. And that's where I think a lot of us are. So going back to your place, where you did both chose to be separate.
Yeah.
Was that a mutual decision, or was that, again, led by one of you?
It had no choice but to end. I mean, I don't go into too much details because out of respect for my daughter's mother, there was no option for us but to separate. And she was great in terms of accepted it.
Yeah.
And I'll always say that we came to a good understanding of not causing each other any issues during that period because we put our daughter first. And the first thing I said to her when we knew we were going to separate, I said, I'm having Lara, our daughter, I'm having her 50% of the time. I cannot have her any less. Yeah. And she said, fine. And that was the main thing. Money, take as much of it as you want, but you can't steal my daughter's time from me. And I remember when we knew it had to come to an end, I was crushed because I felt like I was losing my daughter. And that was the hardest bit because, and this will make me cry, but my daughter was just my life. And so I had to figure out how do I stay the dad that I want to be, knowing that I can't be there half the time. And so that was really difficult. But I think, and I guess we'll talk about this later on the Dad Project, it's made me a better dad in a lot of ways. But what I've tried to say to men a lot of the time is, we take for granted everything that we've had in life. And I was putting my daughter to bed the other night, and I looked at her and I said, I wish I could see this face every day.
Bless you.
That was hard because...
How old was she at the time?
This is only last week. When we broke up, she was 6. Now she's 9.5.
Wow.
But I just as fathers, we can't take that for granted. There's so many things that we want to do. There's so many things that we think are important.
Yeah.
And there's no guarantee for tomorrow.
No.
Even if we think, okay, we've got our children now, let's make the most of it. We'll be together forever. There's no guarantee. We don't know what's going to happen to us, their health.
Yeah.
We don't know what's going to happen in the world. There's no guarantees.
Yeah.
But I think really focusing and being present. And like even this morning, Lara was having breakfast and she had 5 minutes before we had to leave. So she was catching up with something on TV and I was like, okay, I'll quickly just check my email for this 5 minutes while she sat there. And halfway through, I thought, why am I doing this? I can do this later. There's 5 minutes here. Let me go and sit with her. Even if I'm just watching the show with her.
Wow.
Let me just sit with her and be present because she needs that. And she might not say it, but she'll notice, Dad, I was here. And I was like, okay, I have to be more present and remember what is important now and what can wait for 15, 20 minutes down the road.
Did you find that has shifted more so because you're on your own and you've got one-to-one time with it? When you're in a family, it's kind of like the basic thing that we take for granted, that somebody's going to be there. And we know wives say it all the time, you're not spending enough time with the kids. And at that moment, we don't understand it.
Yeah.
and in this moment you're actually doing it. Does it now kind of like
totally
hit upon you, going, what she was saying had some truth?
Oh yeah, it's I have my daughter half the week, right? And so Sunday is my only full day with her.
Yeah.
And then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday is like I pick her up from school and I'll drop her to school. So that time is like 4 till 8 o'clock. And in that time, she's got to do her homework. She's got to eat. She needs to want to play. She wants to make her slime.
She wants her own time.
Yeah, she wants to chat to her mates.
Yeah.
And so I can't just suffocate her. But just be aware that she's there. And then what I tend to do is, if I know she's eating, I'll open my laptop. I'll do some work. I know I've got about half an hour it takes her to eat, and then she'll watch her TV show, whatever.
Yeah.
And then she'll want to chat to her mates for a bit. I'm like, okay, another 20 minutes I can do here. So I make another hour and a half of work around what she's doing, but I make sure that I check in and say, okay, it's our time now, Laura. Let's do something. What do you want to do? You want to play some games? She likes to, the stuff that we do together. She loves to do ball games, other stuff. She likes to mess around. So I make sure we make enough time. But then I also check in with her. I'm like, is there anything else you want to do? Did you spend enough time with Dada? Yesterday, she rang me while I was at the gym because she was with my mum. Sleep tonight with my mum. And she just rang me and she's like, what you doing, Dada? I said, just finishing up the gym. And then she's got this thing where it's hard for her to share emotion. But I'm like, are you calling Dada because you miss me? She goes, maybe, I think so. I'm like, so those kind of things are just beautiful.
Yeah.
They're beautiful moments, but I could talk about her forever.
Oh, bless you. It sounds like a beautiful relationship, but I wanted just to step back to the moment when you've separated, you're now doing lives separately. Sounds like you've been a fantastic father. Many men in your situation probably go through that notion of, no, I can't leave, or we can't split. We've got to stick together for the sake of the children.
Yeah.
Was that really evident in your decision making of, no, it's not the best thing for Lara is that she has two capable parents? Or
I've always had stories of parents that have stayed together for the kids. And the kids actually regret that the parents stayed together because they can see they're miserable. Yeah. So I think if there's two parents who are not in love and don't trust each other and not having a healthy relationship, the kids will suffer because there'll be arguments, there'll be distance, there'll be little remarks said here and there. The kids will pick up on it, and maybe they'll think it's their fault that the parents are fighting, because what do the kids know? Exactly. So I knew that if we can't be together, let's separate, but let's make a commitment to put her first and be amicable with each other. And a good friend of mine and a guest who was on the Dad Project podcast said to me, it's important that you realize that the person that you may not be the biggest fan of is a person that your child loves. Yeah. So whoever your partner is, work into your relationship a way to be amicable. Yeah. And even have a good, healthy relationship, because your child will see it. I don't understand when I hear parents who say they only communicate via email, or they're not allowed on the driveway. They walk past the driveway, they're in trouble. They shout at each other. And I'm like, so where's a kid in all of this? Is he just... Is he or she just standing there looking like their dad's like, mum and dad, thinking, what is happening? I made sure that we found a way that even though we're not going to be together, we're going to be good for Lara. Good. And that was and we're living proof of that. We really are, because Lara is thriving and she's happy. Oh. Not once she said to me, I want to go back to mama's. Not once. And she hasn't said that to her mum. And all she knows is mum and dad like this.
Well, that's what successful, amicable, conscious uncoupling looks like, right? Yeah. As the experts call it as well. And one of the things, I guess, that comes up, and you've told it beautifully, that if you're willing to be committed for something that you've both created, which is your child, and co-parenting, I get that it's not always easy. Yeah. We always hear about the good cop, bad cop, that the kids start playing you off. And I think it's more easier when you're not in a space that you are willing to work as a team. Yeah. And it's interesting how many couples, when they are together, they don't work as a team, and then they separate. Yeah. And they have to figure out how to work as a team. Yeah. What was it like for you from a cultural, family, or societal point of view? Like, did you ever come across your mind of going, I can't do this, or, what will people think? Did your family at any point say, no, you have to make this work for the sake of our name and legacy?
That's really interesting. Family were very supportive. Yeah. When I told my parents, my dad said something to me which I'll never forget. he said, how you handle this will define who you are as a man. Handle it with class, handle it with dignity. And that's exactly what I did. There's no need to be mean. There's no need to be difficult. We have a life to live, and let's try to be happy with it. Culturally, I didn't care what people thought. I really didn't, because it was about how I felt.
Yeah.
And to be honest, people getting separated is quite normal. I knew that Lara had at least 3 friends in her class whose parents are not together. So it's not a crazy thing when they say, oh, mum's picking me up today, or I'm going to my dad's house today. It's understandable.
Yeah.
So I didn't feel any pressure. And I think people have shifted. I know a lot of people who are divorced.
Yeah.
And I feel comforted to know that the parents a lot of the time are supportive, especially to see their child in pain. I think I don't know any parent who'd want to see their child suffer, especially if it's an abusive relationship. But even if you're just not getting on, life is short. Don't waste each other's time. The kids don't want to see that.
And I think parents' generation, in the utmost respect, they didn't have those choices, but they equally know they don't want their children to go through what they did. And I think given that they've said, look, back in those days you fought for, creating a home, or fought over money or land or whatever else, right? It was all ancestral, passed down, that you had to be a certain way.
Yeah.
Whereas now I think they think, hang on, you've got education, you've got food on the table, you've got every basic necessity sorted, and all we're asking is for you to get on. And if they see that you're not, because before it was fighting over the amenities, the essentials that were being shared and, taking care of external family members. And now there isn't that kind of pressure. And they're like, why can these people not get on? So I think they get it. They understand. I don't think, I always say this, nobody gets together, has a marriage and say, yeah, I want to marry so I can have a divorce. And no parent sets out to say, I want to see my child go through this. So
people just grow over time. They either grow together or they grow apart.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's a bad thing. I really don't. If you're not with the person who you feel is right for you, and you could both mutually agree that, look, we want different things. As long as you commit to your children after that.
Yeah.
That's the one thing I'm like, if someone walks away and says, I want my own life, just have the kids, see you later, I'm going to go and live in Bali.
Yeah.
That's where I would step in and say, look, you created this child. They didn't ask to be here. You guys made this child. Commit to the child. Your life, you got responsibilities here. That's the thing I would say. Take care of children, but then live your lives as you want to live it.
Amazing.
I never thought I'd be divorced. Never. I mean, it's amazing what can change in time, but 5 years ago, 10 years ago, never. But things happen.
They do.
Yeah, they do happen.
So from there, you developed Dad's Project. Tell us a little bit about that.
So the Dad Project is something which was just an idea, which was to try to show initially single fathers of colour, who are inspirational dads. Because I felt too many times single fathers get stigmatized. People think that if you're a single father, you've done something wrong. You've maybe got the kids every other weekend. You kind of pop in and out, but the mum does most of the work. And I just know it's not like that.
Yeah.
So having started off my career in photography and film, I want to do a little project which is meant to be around portraits, photos of these really inspiring fathers.
Yeah, yeah.
And in addition to the photos, I kind of interviewed each dad for like half an hour, 45 minutes. And then I had all this content and I thought, the interviews are really strong. Yeah. And the portraits are great, but what's going to have impact are these interviews? So I turned these interviews into a podcast. And I'm like, okay, let's call it the Dad Project podcast, where I'm speaking to single fathers of colour about their journey of fatherhood and what they do for their kids. Another single dad who had seen just the first few videos messaged me on Instagram. His name is Nimesh, and he said, dude, what you're doing is amazing. Can I come on board and work with you? And he's come on board, and we've expanded it now to becoming a platform, not just for single dads of colour, for men in general.
Amazing.
It's going to be a platform to help men who are dealing with mental health issues, dealing with parenting issues, self-improvement. Still at the very early stages, but we're starting to shoot season 2 of the podcast next month. And the support's been phenomenal, just
Amazing.
because men's mental health is neglected and it's not serviced enough. And I feel very passionate about helping men, because if I see a man suffer, I can feel his pain and I want to help.
Yeah.
And sometimes that man's not ready for help there and then. And it's not my place to jump in and say, look, if you do this, do that, think about this way. They're not ready.
No.
But if I can create a platform where they can start seeing the content and they can start to hear about my journey, what I'm doing, and they can start to come on board slowly, then I can help a lot of men. And that's my mission.
Oh my goodness. I am so blown away with what you shared, because that so resonates. A lot of men get to a point where they become stuck. They're looking for that external validation for success, as you know.
Yep.
I call it wounded masculinity in there as well.
Yep.
But they're looking for that external validation of, I've created a house, maybe haven't created the home. When I say home, I mean the loving environment and so forth, because they're not taught to do that.
Yeah.
Created the house, got a great job, taken the wife off on many holidays, and yet come home to someone that's very ungrateful. And then it become undone because the criticism and everything else. And at that point, for some men, as you say, they probably suppress the emotions even further, because men don't express enough as it is.
Yep.
So I love what Dad's project is doing, and especially the mental health side of it. Have you found that more men are like the gentleman you mentioned? Are they stepping forward? Are they encouraging you?
What's really interesting, I've always been super open. I've always been emotionally very open, and it's probably my superpower now, is that I like to talk, and I don't care about showing my vulnerabilities and what I'm going through. And I honestly see myself as a man that's able to inspire others to be open too. I've had guys at the gym who just approach me who say, dude, what you're doing is amazing, man. Like, more men need to do it. Everyone I meet, they all say the same thing. And I don't see myself as the person that can help everyone, because I'm not a therapist, I'm not a coach. But I've got a team that I've built who are. Yeah. But I see myself as the bridge between those that need the help and those that can help them. I'm the guy that can help these men take that first step. I'm the guy that these men can believe in and say, look, if he's done it. Yeah. And obviously we've only spoken about my relationship. There's a lot more happened in my life that I've dealt with before that, and still currently dealing with now. Like, no one's ever fully healed in my opinion. But if I can inspire these men, because the hardest thing is firstly saying, I think I need help, or taking that first step. Yeah. I'm there to help them take that first step.
But it's acceptance to yourself, isn't it? Why do men find that so hard?
This is what we're working on. For every man, it's different. Yeah. A lot of the time, it's finding, and I was actually listening to a podcast today on the way here, where they say most men don't have a friend, a confidant they can speak to openly about their emotions. Yeah. I have countless, because I've sourced them. Yeah. And I was on a podcast last week, and the guy said, what can you tell, or how could you help men with their mental health? I said, find someone in your network, your friend or somebody who you can speak to. Have that one friend who will sit there and won't judge you, won't say anything, but will just listen, because that's how I got through my trauma, was my brother and two of my mates who just listened. One of them had already been divorced. The other one was training to be a coach. All amazing men. And if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't have been able to get through it. So
I say the sum of the 5 people you hang around, and this is some of the challenges, and this is not men or female, it's just universal of who you hang about with, and the network that you have determines the quality of your life. And if you haven't got the support around you, and unfortunately men and women both do this, will gossip talk to the wrong people, thinking they've got the solution, they've got the ideas, and when they don't, and you're like, that's not worked. Obviously people deal with it in different ways, because I think for men there's the stigma attached to it, huge, more so than the woman. I think
the funny thing is, the men that I've met through the Dad Project who have gone through trauma and have come out and are on a new path are the most open and kindest men I know. And my network is slowly becoming full of more and more of these kind of men, because they've realized I can't get through life without dealing with what I've been through. And if I do, if I don't, I'm either going to drink or take drugs or put on weight or do something stupid. Or I'm going to lose my children, lose my friends, lose my family. But those who say, I need help and go through the healing process, not saying they're all healed, but are on the journey, they're the most beautiful men in terms of the way they think, the way they see the world. They become kinder. They want to help other men. They want to help other people. And don't get me wrong, this is not me just trying to help men. I really do it because of the children. Yeah. Because if I help the man, I can help the children. I can help the whole family. And that's my desire, is I must have gone through this for a reason.
I think that for similar, we all go through our journey, our time, lumpy, shorty, whatever. We have to go through that path that's been chosen, but also we choose that path. Up until then, we can say it's our circumstances, and thereafter it's our choices. And you're right, it's all about how we act and react so much past that. But many people still get stuck somewhere going, first, I feel some are in denial. It's my partner. It's my partner. And I say, well, if you're trying to fix your partner, then it really is on you. And the second place is, even if they know it, there just feels like this level of stubbornness that will not humble them to kind of come to that place. Like you said the word help, and I say the word, and it doesn't really matter. It's, I need support, I need help, I need something.
They haven't got, in my opinion, I've met many men like that.
Yeah.
They haven't got the right network around them,
Yeah.
right? So they've got men around them who are just going to reaffirm a view of the world that they see. Yeah, I should be in a pub, I should go play football. Yeah. And I'm just, stereotyping, right? But you need a friend who can sit you down and put his arm around you and say, brother, I see that you're going through this. Look, and if they've got that friend, they've got that person, it can help change them. And they have to step away from that group for a little bit because they have to realize that this group isn't helping me.
It only, how do you put it, puts you in cotton wool or masks what you're really dealing with. They can hold your energy for a short term. Like you said, if you continue to being and reacting in their way or acting in their way, but long term, when they are getting on with their families, you're still on your own.
Well, the thing is, not a lot of those men are getting on with their families.
No,
right?
sorry, they're dealing with the same stuff.
And then they just all come together because they're all dealing with the same stuff. They'll sit there and they'll talk about it. And what I realized, and what was my biggest things I realized when I was going through my separation and my journey as a single man, is it's okay to meet someone and not become a close friend with them.
Yes.
It's okay to understand you seem like a nice person, but we're not meant to be friends because there's not a lot that we share in common, right? And so that's fine. Find who you are and realize there's certain people you're going to vibrate with and there's certain people you're not going to vibrate with. I wanted to vibrate with everybody because I wanted everyone to be my friend because I'm in business, networking is important for me. But now I realize I vibrate in a very unique frequency. I know myself that I'm quite different as a man, the way I think and the way I see the world. So my network's going to be smaller because, not everyone's going to understand the way I am, and that's fine. But I'm here to do a very unique job too. So I shouldn't vibrate with everybody. So this is that self-awareness, and how many men will sit there and think that deep about themselves?
They won't. And I also want to touch upon this subject very lightly. And I know this is not of your experience, but you might be able to offer something here. Many men, when they come out of a divorce or come out of one relationship, they rebound quickly, or it's believed that men get back into relationships more quickly. It's not true. I think they actually take their time. That's my personal view. But there is a view out there. There's some go into it too quickly. If you take, let's say, our culture, some will go to India and say, right, I found another bride. Let's say that used to happen back in the day. Probably less so now, right? Because of all the criterias. But often, during that phase, when they are rushing to get to the next relationship, I don't think they will stop and consider, hang on, what do I need to improve here? And it's only when people jump into that second relationship and then it hits men harder later. Did that correlate with some of the things that you've seen with men?
And what's so interesting, right? And I was listening to another podcast about relationships, is when you used to have an arranged marriage, you'd have family from both sides who would tell the other family, these are the characteristics of our child. And the other family would say, well, our child's like this, right? And so, okay, they would make a match. Now, we don't really listen to our family and friends. We find someone and then say to them, this is my partner. And your family and friends might say, is that person like you? Because they're like this, but you're not like that. No, don't worry, I know, it's just amazing, or he's amazing. But really, you don't take the counsel of your family and friends. No. And so you might jump into something thinking that they have filled that gap. But really, you should listen to the people around you because they know you. And they view your relationship and the person you're with differently than you would. And it's understandable that people might rebound, depending on how the relationship has ended.
Yeah.
It's completely understandable. And I don't think it's wrong for someone to say, I want some company. As long as you're not hurting the other person, people can understand it. That person's feeling lonely. Someone's come along and is filling that gap. Is that the right person? Who knows? If that relationship doesn't work, I think you should listen to people and think, okay, this wasn't actually meant to be any more than it is.
Yeah.
But that's why I like Indian culture a lot, is that our community and our families are quite heavily involved in relationships, right? For better or for worse.
Yes.
But usually they can give you some good advice. Doesn't mean you always have to take it. I mean, again, sometimes they may not give you the best advice, but there may be those few people around you who might say something. So you can take it with a pinch of salt. But I think, especially when you're coming out of a relationship, when you're wounded, when you may not see stuff as clear as someone who is more healed, seek counsel.
I love that, because you're right. I think there is a moment to check in with your family. And it's something that was said to me of how can you get on with someone else's when you can't get on with your own. That was my opening moment of going, whoa, I don't ever want to go into another relationship where I haven't dealt with me and my challenges at home or whatever. And that's what's there, I think, for men, is that the opportunity to heal or learn something. Because I always ask that question, what did you learn from your last relationship? And when someone goes blank, I'm going, okay, so you learned nothing. Yeah. So you're just going to step over all the stuff that you swept under the carpet. You're now moving into the next bit. And I think that's where sometimes I feel men become stuck or a little bit undone, going, yeah, but then it won't be like that. And they think it's because it's the other person, as opposed to, hang on a minute, I have some responsibility to bear in here. I mean, both parties do, even females, right?
I wonder, you're right. And I wonder if that man was talking to another man, whether his answer would be different.
Yeah.
Because I can understand him talking to a woman and saying, I've done all this wrong, can hurt his ego. Yeah. Whereas if he's talking to another man and that guy is just trying to build up a bond with them, and sometimes, you know what, a man may not tell you, sat down in a therapist's office, like, you know, in a traditional way we see therapy, but
absolutely,
if he went with another man and they went on a little hike and they went mountain biking and then they had a little picnic and they built up that bond, and slowly that other man started doing a little bit of digging, I guarantee you'd find out some stuff. Because the way men connect is different. We don't want to be put on a chair and be told that we've done something wrong and, like, you know, it's your fault.
No.
Most men don't respond to that.
No. And that's one of the first things that people get scared of when they think they're coming to have a conversation with me. By the way, men go first with me. It's not the woman. And I do a consultation, and the first thing they're kind of a little bit nervous of, why is it just you and me? And I said, because I don't need to listen to your wife. I want to hear you. And they were like, that's really refreshing. And it's one of the things that's worked well, that when a man thinks he's been heard and understood, before he thinks I'm going to take his wife's side, which I'm not. Yeah. And I think that's what's taken me time to, or people to understand that actually I'm not someone that's just going to come along and go, I'm only going to listen to your wife. Yeah. I'm going to make it all your fault. Because if anything, if I don't champion you, there's no way this marriage is getting back on track. So I have to champion both people. So I totally hear you that sometimes that little bit of resistance, you know, is there with me and men as well, going, okay, hang on a minute. I just know that, you know, I'm not trying to make you wrong. I'm just trying to listen for what's really going on underneath. Yeah. And you're right, in natural environments with natural, you know, same gender, it's much easier. It is much easier.
But then I don't think men a lot of the time are trained for relationships, right? If you think about what a marriage is, right? Yeah. You can just go out and get married and it's cheap. Right, you could go to Vegas and get married. Well, right,
depending on the Indian Asian wedding budget.
But imagine you went to Vegas and you had a little drive-through wedding, and now you've got this commitment to this person forever. Yeah. But then to get out of it, it's difficult. Really, it should be hard to get into a marriage. Are you prepared for this? Go on this course. This is what it takes to have a marriage, especially when kids come about. How are you going to handle it? Because one thing that isn't spoken enough about is when a man finds out he's going to be a father, how do you prepare that man for that journey? Yeah. Right? Because a woman starts preparing for the whole pregnancy, right? 9 months. Yeah. She's building this, she's creating this beautiful baby. But what's the man doing? Right? Apart from, I need to go and buy the cot. That man...
But does his mind not go into, I need to provide more? All of a sudden he goes into panic stations. No, but I need to have more money. I need to make sure we've got this. He goes into that provision, doesn't he?
That's one side of it, which is important. Important, right? Yeah. Because the woman and the family need that. Yeah. Right? I'm creating this beautiful child. I need to rest. of course, and there's many needs, and you need to get the house ready. But the man emotionally needs to be prepared, and it takes 9 months for that man to become a father, right? But a lot of the time, they don't take the time out to understand. Okay, my life's going to change. I'm no longer going to get the same attention from my partner.
Yes.
I'm not going to have the physical relationship for a
Yep.
while, which is important,
Yep.
right? How am I going to handle that? How am I going to make sure I don't feel neglected?
Yeah.
How am I going to make sure I can provide? Because the woman is going to go through a lot. And it's giving birth is one bit of it. Then you've got the rest of it, which
Yeah,
gets
exactly.
even harder.
Yeah.
So how am I going to now provide for all these while still tending to myself? And there should be training. There should be coaching. There should be a lot that helps prepare these men. And whenever I find out anyone mate's going to have a kid, I'm like, okay, be prepared. Don't be scared. Be prepared for what's going to come. So when it comes, it's not a massive shock.
But that's the thing, that our journey, for want of a better word, our relationships are going to change throughout the times, right? There is going to be different seasons. You know, there are going to be different eras. Like you say, the dating phase, marriage phase, children phase, buying the home phase. You go through all of these things, but also you as individuals are evolving and growing.
Yeah.
You know, I now work with couples that are doing that. They're recognizing, like you were saying, that you need to work on yourselves individually, and then you need to work with each other as a team.
Yeah.
If you could go back and tell yourself something could have saved your marriage sooner, what was that one thing you may have, that you know now that you didn't know back then through the healing journey? What could you...
What I could have done during my marriage?
Yeah.
It's the little things. I would say it's the little things. So a lot of the time we think, you know, when it's our wife's birthday, anniversary, big presents, take them out. But it's not that. It's the little things daily. It's the, oh, she's gone for a shower. I know she likes to have a cup of tea when she comes out. The cup of tea is there for her. It's understanding this is what my partner goes through every day. These are the things that will make her life a little bit easier. It might be going on and turning the car on and making sure the heating's on. It might be scraping the ice off the car. So when she gets there, she's like, oh, I don't have to do that. It's the little things daily which show I see you and I care about you. And I think that is the key, in my opinion. And I can take that and say, I should have probably done some more stuff, which I did realise, but at
hindsight,
a much later stage. But that's what I would say, is pay attention, because, you know, both men and women both want to be loved, but we are loved in different ways. And we require different ways of love being expressed to us. A man might get a little bit annoyed if the woman starts to do everything for him. But for the woman, that's amazing, because now she's seeing that her man, I'm here, he sees me. He's not just sitting there doing his own thing. I'm very visible in his world. So understanding what the other person needs and doing, like, you know, that the love language tests, all that kind of stuff, I think is really important. But the little things, that's the thing I would take.
You've hit on a very critical point, because that's the thing. Like, when someone says, I'm trying, I'm doing stuff now, I always say there's something further deep-rooted that's been buried away, that there's damage being caused and you're trying to repair. But most men don't like to repair it. It's almost, let's brush it under the carpet and carry on. You know, again, these are, I say, learnt behaviours.
Yeah.
And as you say, there's not enough education out there that this can be avoided. How do we encourage more men to, well, firstly, become more aware of it, and then secondly, be vulnerable enough to go on these journeys? Because a lot of, you know, even females, I guess, as well, do resist the journey, do resist that I don't have to do anything here. You know what I mean? Like the saying goes.
Do you know what I've realised, right? So if you want your man to change, and women are much more emotional and vulnerable and sensitive. It's just the way we're wired, right?
Yeah.
If you're asking your man to do something, I want you to do these things, but every day you're nagging at him, why are you not doing it? What you need to create is a space where you've said it. Now I will support you to help make those changes.
Yeah.
Meaning you're going to encourage them and you're going to say, well done, I really appreciate that, what you did there. He can't show you love if he doesn't feel safe in your space, right?
True.
If you're constantly at him, he has to have the desire to want to do it. But if he can see, she said it to me once, and now she's going to support me as I make these changes, he will make those changes. But then that requires the woman to have that deeper level of tolerance, maybe is the right word, but just to say, I'm going to support him through these changes. He said to me he will do it. let me walk with him on this journey of change. Not let me leave him there and me stand here and look at him and watch him. Are you going to change? You ain't changed. No, stand next to him, hold his hand, and guide him through the change. Because a lot of the time, as men, we're just lost. We don't know how to change. What is it that you actually need? Can you show me? Give me a few examples. Oh, now I get it. Don't leave me to it and sit there and look at me and then cane me if I haven't done exactly as you want it. Because I'm not going to do it.
Oh my God, you've hit on so many things then, Naroop, because that is everything that I end up dealing with in the conflict resolution, because it's that a woman expects, just sort him out, change him. Like, I'm not sorting him out.
Yeah.
And that's not what I do for people. You get to see for yourself where you're not able to support each other. But I loved the comment that you made there of the nagging. And then the second thing is the expectation, because it's almost like for a lot of guys that I hear from, it's like, I'm damned if I'm do and I'm damned if I'm no.
Yep.
And that's where they go into resignation. But many go, no, forget it, because it's almost we scare them into, if you now do it and get it wrong, you're in the doghouse.
Yeah.
So you almost give up.
But a lot of the time as well, I've noticed this when I've seen relationship, is a woman will put the man down in a group environment.
It works both ways. I've seen it, yes.
It works both ways, right?
Yeah,
but obviously I'm talking from a man's perspective, what I've seen.
Yeah.
And that, what do you think a man's going to feel? Because for a man, respect from his woman, I think, is the number one thing.
Yes.
Respect, loyalty, right? Respect, show me that I'm your man. Not that, oh, touch my feet and go and get my food and put it in front of me. No. Show me that you love me and I'm yours.
I was hosting a couples mini workshop and that exact same thing happened. The gent said, can I just go to the men's? And as he was coming back, the lady, the wife was with the little baby. She was feeding her, an exception for them to have the little baby. She turned around, Gurj, can I just tell you one more thing about what he does? And he was walking into the room and I was going, no. And she went, but why not? It's just a little thing that he does that I need to. And I went, I could see the smirk on her face. I could see, the fear coming onto his face of what is she about to say.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm going to stop you. She just looked, why? I said, because you're about to put your husband down. No, I'm not. I'm just about to tell you a funny story. I said, no, you think it's funny.
Yeah.
But
it's not.
I said, would you share that? If I did the same to you or he did the same to you, are you comfortable with him saying something about you in front of two people? She looked at me and she goes, yeah, but it's you. I said, yes, I know I'm the coach. Take me out of the equation. But if you were in a room and he said something about you in front of your friends. And she goes, no. And I said, what? What about a room full of people? Yeah. No, in front of family. I went, no. She says, why are you doing it to him?
Yeah.
I think we don't realise we're about to do it. That was her comeback to me. I didn't realise. Realise? And I know we think, our partner can take a joke, but I think it's
there's levels to it.
Levels, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, that for a man will, it's like a kick. It's like physically punching him, winding him.
Yeah.
It's like, where do you go? And then is that going to make him want to do more for you? Or is it going to make him think, it's just going to do it again next time. I can't even be bothered. So, and it sounds easy. Like it sounds, just don't do it. But I know it's difficult. And there's probably a lot of stuff that's happened before that's led up to that point, and all that needs to get addressed. And I'm not a coach or a therapist. All I can say is from my experience and what I've seen and what I've understood is, just respecting them and working towards wanting the other person to change, really wanting them to, and saying, I will support you through the change because I love you, as long as you're willing to put the effort in with me. If they're not, and you're supporting them and they're not, then there's a problem. But if they are, sometimes men, we need a little bit more of a helping hand. And if you can get that beautiful balance and you're speaking and you're communicating healthily, I think a lot of relationships can be really, really positive and uplifting. But it's a relationship is work. We should take a course in it. You put two people together and you think, oh yeah, they're going to know exactly what to do. Is that raising a child? Do you know how to raise a child? No, you learn through errors.
Yeah.
And the child makes a mistake. Oh, don't do that again.
And that's it. Our tolerance levels have become less and less.
Yeah.
Naroop, I am so enthused with the conversation. I could sit here all day having a conversation with you, but I'd love to know what next for the dad's projects and mental health and what's the journey ahead for you guys?
Just scaling it up. We're still at the early stages, but we've got a growing team. Right, there's nearly 5 of us on board now, all growing this vision. I just want to create positive change. I want to help men. I want to create a space for men to come together, improve. I want to create a resource that they can tap into, that they can start to take that first step. That's going to encourage them. That's going to inspire them. And I want to be a man that other men can believe in and understand that I'm operating from a place of pure honesty, authentically and vulnerably, like sharing all my life stories, not for my own ego, but to help people. And so if all goes to plan, this is going to be a global organization. But again, like I said, it's very early stages, but I'd love people to tap into the network, Dad Project HQ on Instagram and on social media. Is if you know someone that needs help, especially if someone's a father, get them to check out our stuff. And I love having conversations with men. They can reach out to me online on my Instagram. It's Naroop. And if I can offer help and support, I really, really will.
Bless you. Thank you so much for being in conversation with myself. It has been an absolute pleasure, and I can wish you so much more success and standing here supporting you as you support others. So thank you for being with us.
I appreciate that.
Thank you.